I say yes. All right. 1 minute early, but I will call the meeting to order. Roll call, Ms. Widener.
Dr. Campley?
Here.
Mr. Fountain?
Here.
Mr. Keenan? Mr. Liggett?
Here.
Mr. McKinney?
Here.
Dr. Sadler?
Here.
Mr. Saylor?
Here.
Dr. Weston?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here. 1.03, 1.04, Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent reflection. All right, 1.05, Dr. Campley, reading of the PVSD mission statement. Have you done yet? Did you? Okay, Mr. Fountain, would you mind? Thank you so much.
The mission of the Perkiomen Valley School District is to cultivate an inclusive community of learners empowered to grow intellectually, socially, and emotionally.
Thank you so much. 1.06, the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve as the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Against? Motion passes. 1.07, comments on any topic. Anyone in the community has 3 minutes to comment on any topic that they so desire. Please state your name and municipality, and I open up the floor. Okie dokie. Oh, Mr. McGill.
Good evening. My name is Bill McGill. I'm a resident of Perkiomen Township, proud third grade teacher at Evergreen Elementary, and also serve as the association president. I wanted to thank the board and administration this evening for a very smooth startup of the school year. So thank you. Short message.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Alrighty, then moving on to reports and presentations. 2.01 is the Student Liaisons Report. Mr. Lees, welcome to the school board and to the meeting formally. Do you have anything to update us on? You just have to hit your microphone on. There you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to be here. Yeah, I wrote up a short little thing for our update.
Go for it.
So me and Claire, we'd like to start off by saying we hope everybody had a good Labor Day weekend. The school year is just starting off, but we've already gotten some pretty good news. In athletics, we got a win 31-14 over Governor Mifflin at the football game last Friday. And then the cross-country team also had a great meet on Saturday, finishing third for the boys and sixth for the girls. And then in other news, freshman class officers need to get their act together to and submit their forms by tomorrow to participate in the election. And otherwise, very smooth start to the school year. And thank you.
Thank you so much. We look forward to working with you this year. And we look forward to seeing Ms. Trumba as well, of course, when she returns. 2.02 is President's Report. I have nothing other than to just reiterate thanks for a wonderful start to the school year. Hopefully everybody has really been excited and energized by all of the back-to-school activities. And thank you, Mr. McGill, for also letting us know that from your point of view, everything went smoothly as well. That's great to hear. 2.03, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Russell.
Thank you, Ms. White. I have a couple of items this evening. You can see them there. I'd also like to comment on the beginning of the school year, both for students and our staff. Recognize our staff that will be awarded tenure this year. And we have one in our audience. Thank you for coming. And then share with you some information that's also being communicated about our new facility dog, Ken, out at West. an update on the Southeast Youth Development Center, and then some important dates to keep in mind. I will again ground us in our mission statement, which you hear every board meeting, and our shared beliefs, that we think about how we prepare our students so that they are future ready, how we nurture schools so that they are safe and supportive both physically and within the community, that students feel a part of the peer group and the community that they attend. And then also our community partnerships. We thank them. We also have specific goals. These goals will continue to be our goals as part of the comprehensive plan that we are still operating under this year. Still focused on math achievement and growth and the proficiency of our English learners as well as our special education students. And again, student and staff wellness. So, day one of the school year. That was a really exciting day this year. We had opening day at East again. You can see in the picture on the left, we recognized our staff that have been with us, been committed to our district for 25, 30, and 35 years. And in fact, Mr. McGill was the lone 35-year recipient recognized for that commitment to our school district. And that's really nice. We hear thoughts and comments about the experiences of these individuals by their direct supervisor. And so it's a really nice way to recognize them on this day. To the right there, you see part of our dream team as we were getting ready to go. And then bottom right is the foundation and the individuals that were awarded grants last year, pictured with Kristen Craven. And of course, the big one is the Anna Tamaj table that was received by Dr. Kathleen Fitzhenry and exists upstairs here for our students. Administration did a little song and dance. I have to call out Mr. Weaver. He really was probably the MVP of this event. I talked a little bit about some of the changes at a very broad level that have happened in our district over the past 10 years and segued into the changes within our administrative team. And as a fun way to introduce those new and different members, some of them are new to our team, some of them are just in different positions this year. We had each sub-administrative team be introduced, and then they actually did a little routine to a song that they chose that somehow aligned to their personalities, the work that they do, etc. And Mr. Weaver did some Slim Shandy and Welcome Back Cotter, and but he did a nice job, and it was entertaining. And so I again thank the administrative team for taking that risk and putting themselves in that position as a way to engage all of our staff on that day. So fun opening day. For students, it was as if they were never away. They fell right back into things, and it really was fairly seamless. We had very few transportation issues. I feel really good about how that went for our students. And students really seemed to be excited and enthusiastic and ready to be back in school. And you can see some pictures that were sent in. Our kindergarten students are actually the class of 2037. Let that sink in. 2037. And these are some of our older students, in addition to some younger ones waiting at the bus stop. So thank you, parents, for sending in the pictures. We always enjoy looking at those and seeing the faces of our students as we welcome them back. So once professional staff members, teachers have invested 3 years with a district and have had satisfactory performance in each of those 3 years, they are awarded tenure. And tenure in Pennsylvania grants them just certain rights that are above and beyond what they would otherwise have as a temporary professional employee. So they are now a permanent professional employee. And it's a really important milestone in the careers of our teachers, and something that we like to recognize each year. They meet the criteria. They've been observed by their direct supervisors. They've had the number of evaluations and demonstrated satisfactory. It's called satisfactory performance in the eyes of the state. And they've been observed by the superintendent as well. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce the individuals who will be recognized as earning tenure. At the conclusion of last year, evaluations actually aren't final until this fall, but these individuals are all on track to be proficient. We need to wait for some student data for them to actually be finalized. However, the tenure is awarded based on their status at the end of the year, and they are all in good standing. So Caitlin Bashline is a speech therapist with us. Amanda Buckley is a psychologist. Victoria Tornetta DeLong is a speech therapist. Tom Farney teaches science upstairs. Charlotte Holman teaches English as a second language here in the high school. Nicole Improto is at East as a special ed teacher. Gabrielle Jackson is a board-certified behavioral analyst. You'll hear BCBA a lot. Layla Naden is an instructional coach. Kaylin Orlowski is a speech therapist. Melissa Overholzer is a librarian out at Schwenksville. Melissa Sandone, a special education teacher at West, and Taylor Schaefer is a social studies teacher here at the high school. So, congratulations to these staff as part of our team who have been awarded tenure. And congratulations and thank you for attending, Amanda. All right, so every time you see this dog, he looks like he's smiling. And this is Ken. And I wanted to share with you, if I can, Mr. Ganesh, if it's all right, if I play a video. I'm not sure how the volume will be. But this was a video that was created by the team at West to help introduce students to Ken and Ken to students. There's a process to this. There's a transition. Oops, well, that didn't work. I'm sorry. Let me try again.
West is excited to introduce you to Ken, our facility dog. Ken is going to be a part of our family here at West, and he can't wait to meet you. He loves kids. You can tell by his body wiggles and wagging tail every time he sees a student.
As this is Ken's first year with us, he has a lot to learn, and we all need to be a part of training him so he develops good habits. We all want Ken to feel safe and protected here at West, and this first year is super important towards building a positive foundation for Ken. We are in this together.
How to greet Ken. So first, when you see Ken, you should not approach him without asking permission to pet him. I know this is hard because, well, just look at him. But this is very important to remember. Once you ask if you can pet Ken, then Ken's handler will bring him to heel beside them. After this, Ken will get the command to go say hello to you. See in the video how Ken approaches you after receiving permission?
No feeding Ken. Ken should only eat the food and snacks provided to him by his handler. You should never feed Ken anything, even if he looks like he really wants that snack in your hand. We don't want Ken getting sick with an upset stomach, and we don't want to train him to beg. Ken's handlers might give you a treat to give to Ken.
So we all want Ken to feel safe and protected here at West, no matter who he is spending time with. Ken loves a gentle pet. A gentle pet under his chin, along his back, or behind his ears is appreciated. Ken does not like his ears pulled or his tail pulled. We also don't want to give Ken a tight hug, because to a dog, that feels like a restraint and it's scary.
When we see Ken, we want to be calm. It can be so exciting, and even more exciting when you see that Ken is so happy to see you. But it is very important to remain calm when approaching Ken and petting him so that he feels safe, remains calm, and behaves appropriately. If you charge towards Ken, surround Ken, or screech and yell, the handler may have Ken heel at their side to settle him. Remember, this first year is important to establish good behaviors in our Ken and to teach him that he will be treated gently and respectfully by everyone at West.
So it's important to respect boundaries with Ken. Just like we can all get overwhelmed, so can Ken. We don't want to rush up to him, whether alone or in a group. Ken will only be allowed to greet one student at a time so that he doesn't feel overwhelmed and scared. So you'll be asked to take turns petting Ken, one at a time.
We are so excited for Ken to join our West family this year, and we can't wait to see all the wonderful ways he will support our students, staff, and school community. Together with Ken, we are West Strong.
So they did a nice job with that and are very excited to have Ken. He is gradually transitioning, coming to school, and that was something that students were introduced to last week. So let me transition to Southeast Youth Development Center and some updates there. Mr. Mitchell and I were up there last week. I had been up there about 2 weeks prior. There are 5 students currently residing at the center, with a 6th one due very soon. Teachers and counselors are on site. School is underway. And so is the construction that we've talked a little bit about in the past. Interior construction to really modify the living spaces of the young men as well as increase the learning spaces. They are also working beyond the academic core coursework that students participate in, again, based upon where they are on their path towards a high school diploma. The IU is working on developing some technical career focus areas for the students to help them develop some skills before they graduate or before they might leave the center, so that they're set up with a greater likelihood for success. And they continue to aim for a maximum number of students equal to 40, and won't realize that maximum until all of the construction is complete, which they estimate to be around December this year. We'll see. So I've been up there twice since students have been on site, and will continue to visit, probably once a month, to check in. But so far, things look really good. Lastly, some important dates. And before you know it, we're into October. So there's a couple of Meet the Teacher nights coming up this month, one this week and one next week. And then we have our committee meetings get started. So a new and different committee schedule is with policy. That will be before the business meeting each month from 6 to 6:55, 6:50, before the business meeting. And then education will be the Thursday after the business meeting, as will wellness. Wellness will start the first hour from 6 to 7, and then education from 7 to 8:30. Our students have a half day of in-service on the 18th, a holiday on October 3rd. In between there, we have our Safety and Operations Committee meeting, which happens the week after the business meeting. So that's the general routine. That'll take some time maybe to sink in and for us to get used to. It's new and different. So as a reference, here are some at a glance dates that are upcoming, and before you know it, we're into October. All right, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Russell. 2.04, Solicitor's Report.
I have no report.
Thank you, Mr. Subers. 2.05 is Board and District Committee Reports. Dr. Russell already mentioned our upcoming committee meetings, but just so you're aware, all of these meeting dates are posted on the district website. And then I think that there is a plan to send them on socials as well, just as a reminder, prior to the meeting. Yes. That would be helpful to those, especially with the new setup and the new times. So I will then move on to section, unless somebody else has any. Okay, very good. 3.01 is the consent agenda for the business meeting as presented. Will continue to build throughout this meeting. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. Section 4, Education, Mr. McKinney.
Good evening, everyone. As far as updates are concerned, we have our assessment calendar, which we're presenting this year. So we've divided the calendar up into the 3 grade level areas. We have the elementary calendar, which is in front of us. Right there, we see that we have a series of assessments starting in September, the next group in January, moving on through the rest of the year. We get a little reprieve in November and December from the broader assessments that we give. The questions around the assessments are, the number of assessments, why these are all being given, and we really ensure that the educational value of these assessments is very forward. Some of these are assessments for benchmarking, others are, so the DIBELS for early literacy, Acadians for early math readiness, and the entire package flows into an arc of information so that we have a broad profile, not only to take a look at student achievement, but in order for us to identify students who need additional supports along the way. So this is our elementary schedule. Next, we have our middle school schedule. We see it's a little lighter than our elementary schedule, but still we see some of the same names. So that STAR assessment, the iReady, those are programs that we have linked throughout our entire curriculum. And then moving into the high school, we have similar assessments being given, and then also in the high school we move into our state assessments, our keystones, which are going to be given in December, and then the next round will be given in May. Something I want to note both at the elementary and high school is that this year we've been chosen for the NAEP assessment. 2 of our buildings have been chosen for that national assessment. So there's a window there that it says it will be given in. So the state will let us know exactly where within that window we'll be assessing for the NAEP, and that's at 4th grade at Evergreen, and then our seniors at the high school will be given the NAEP in reading and mathematics. Do we have any questions about the assessment schedule?
Would you be able to speak on NAEP a little bit more?
Sure. So NAEP is a national norming assessment. It's a national assessment of educational progress. It's given across the country, and it's actually a state requirement once a school is chosen to give the NAEP. So we can't actually opt out of giving the NAEP. It is a federal requirement, state requirement that we give it when we're chosen. And in this case, when we're given the NAEP, we'll be given a pilot version of the NAEP. So we won't actually receive any feedback or data from the NAEP, but it'll be used for norming the assessment items and for the broader NAEP conversation.
And how are the cohorts chosen?
That is chosen by the state and federal government. We have no say-so in that. It is a random selection that they pull.
Including the elementary school?
Including the elementary school.
Interesting, okay. Thank you for clarifying, just so there's an understanding as to why one elementary school would
Right.
be
Yes, it's complete
participating
random
and not
selection.
understood. Did anyone have any other questions about it? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mitchell. We're really happy to have you here.
Okay, moving on to 402, looking for, yes, I just turned that. So yes, so 402, looking for a conversation about approval for one-year math supplemental resource pilot. I'm looking to move that to consent. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, hearing none, we shall move that on to consent. 403, we have a request to ratify an addendum to the student handbook approved in August. Any questions, comments, concerns? Not hearing any, we shall also move that on to consent. 404 is a placeholder, approval of translation services. And 405 is enrollment report. That is my section.
Is there anything to add to the enrollment report of note, or are we?
No, I mean, our class sizes look pretty stable. The only place where we see sort of a blip on the radar screen is one of our kindergarten classes in Schwanksville is at 22. Our recommended range is 18 to 21. In other areas, though, our class sizes fall within the ranges, and we're pretty pleased with the way they played out. We're supporting that group. We have now 2 paras, thanks to the board's support of a second para for full-day kindergarten. So really trying to target where students have needs and make sure that we do the best that we can to develop the early literacy skills and support these students. Otherwise, all good.
Would you be able to speak as well to the class sizes and some of the grades that had less classes in this school year than they did in that cohort the year before, with regards to how their school year started, and has there been any feedback?
I'm not sure I understand. Help me
There's
understand.
we had some folks had reached out last year.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. Thank you, Ms. White. Yes, we did have some questions, and really valid questions about some of the class sizes in some of our buildings, and particularly in 5th grade, where some of our class sizes, you can see we go across Evergreen South, skip back Schwanksville. So there were some questions about the 25s that we see. We also have a 26 here in one of our buildings. You see a 23. And that may not seem logical, but really those class placements are based upon the needs of our students. and our principals are feeling pretty comfortable with the resources they have in addition to those class size guidelines to support our students. For example, the class of 23 may be a co-taught class, so there may be more serious needs on the part of our students, and they can be more easily addressed by the teacher, and some of the other supports may be a co-taught class. We do have paraprofessional support, and principals are trying to be very targeted and intentional with that, where class sizes are a little bit higher. Teachers certainly would like lower class sizes. It's not always achieved. However, we do everything we can to support with the resources that we have available. And principals continue to hear feedback. So right now, we feel pretty comfortable with the way things are. I mean, it would be great if all class sizes could be much lower, but that isn't necessarily the reality. And sometimes, unless the shift is significant in number, there is not a predicted significant difference or outcome. Now, saying that, the reality is if I'm a teacher, it certainly feels much more manageable to have 18 students versus 26, or to have 20 students versus 26. So we try to do what we can to support these teachers with a co-teacher or with paraprofessional support in ways that we can. There's also some switching happening in 5th grade so that teachers aren't responsible for necessarily delivering the content in all of those subjects. 5th grade is a tough year to teach. In fact, I think it's one of the toughest schedules in our district. Those 5th grade teachers are teaching at a fairly high level now by the time our students are preparing to leave elementary school: math, science, social studies, and ELA. Some of our 5th grades, in fact, I think most of them have started to switch for some of the subjects. So teachers will focus on math, science, or they'll focus on ELA humanities so that they can really hone in with their skills and develop stronger skills and have less planning to do, and that need to be an expert in all 4 areas. I think that's worked out pretty well too for our teachers. So continue to look at what we can do with the resources we have available to support our students most effectively, and our teachers in turn doing that work.
Dr. Russell, thank you so much. I wanted to just make sure that we touched on that since it's the first meeting of the year, and I know that obviously administration and the buildings, as well as district office, continue to look at it and monitor, but I wanted it to be said for the community as well.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Also, Dr. Russell, I just have a question in reference to the cyber, or to the charter school. Is that number of total students higher or lower than previous years?
You mean the students in the virtual academy?
The
Or,
enrollment.
oh, you're in the charter school enrollment. I'm sorry, excuse me. I don't know, Mr. McKinney, but I could find out. I can actually debrief with Mrs. Hurd. She keeps careful records of the tuition we pay. I can follow up with the board and let you know that.
Okay, thank
How
you,
we're
Dr. Russell.
comparing, yes,
I was just
absolutely.
curious.
Yep.
All right, very good. Section 5, business, Dr. Weston.
Thank you. Item 5.01, Finance Committee of the Whole. Mr. Weaver, may we have your report?
Good evening, everybody. We have a short Finance Committee of the Whole presentation for you tonight. First and foremost, we have a capital projects update from Mr. Fabrizio, and more so than ever, it's my pleasure to bring Joe up here because he's had a hand in completing a lot of these things, so we'll give him a lot of the credit here. So go ahead, Joe.
Good evening, everyone. Just to report that the high school first chiller was installed and up and running in record time. We had a main board failure on the carrier chiller, and instead of throwing tens of thousands of dollars out the door for an already scheduled replacement, we accelerated that schedule and brought in the 2 new chillers. The second one will be operational by the end of this week. The Schwanksville chiller is replaced, so that one is up and running. All school paving has been complete. We have some sealing to do and some finalized painting, but other than that, that is complete. We will tackle district office once all of our items from the renovation are removed from out back. We have like a storage container back there and some other items lingering around, so that'll be done in the fall. The comp gym floor is finished. We just have some cove base to put around the bottom. That has been ordered, and Franklin Flooring will be installing that relatively soon. And the Evergreen Cafetorium floor is complete. It turned out awesome. I think you guys saw a video of how they laid out the paint with the tape. That was pretty amazing. And then Aqua has completed their water main extension, so there's no more what they call a dead end in the water line, and the paving and striping is now complete. Does anyone have any questions?
So we have that, as well as the east cafeteria floor is also complete.
Yes, so we ripped up the cafeteria floor in east, and we ground and polished the concrete. Looks pretty good. So I know several areas have been a trip hazard for quite a number of years, so that's been eliminated. So we're doing pretty good.
And the gym at West? Yes?
The gym at West.
I think they're refinishing at the gym at West, I thought.
That's sort of an annual thing.
Is it annual? It looks
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
an annual.
Oh, is it? It looks really, really nice.
Yeah.
Though. So that wasn't a
Thank you.
capital project. That was just a
No.
refresh. It looked good.
Yep.
They were hopping all summer. I know that you guys
Yeah,
worked
it's
really,
been a
really
busy
hard.
summer. So
Wonderful.
anybody else? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Fabrizio.
Real
Good-
quick,
oh, Mr. Salem.
before we get too far off topic, to answer your question, 108 compared to 91.
Thank you.
Okay. So a funny story about the middle school east cafeteria. So the floor gets taken up, and now they're grinding everything, and Kelsey walks over and she goes, "Joe, what are you doing to my cafeteria?" It's nothing but a big, huge smoke screen, and there's dust flying everywhere. And by the way, we're going to open school in a week and a half. So Mr. Fabrizio and his crew went out there afterward and helped to clean some of the areas before we had a professional cleaning unit come in and help. But those are some of the things as we move along and we have these multiple different projects coming along that happen occasionally. So kudos to everybody. As Joe, we just got out of the way and then followed back up with Joe to make sure everything was good. A couple of other items similar to our ratifications that we had in July or in August. 5.02 is for the additional high school painting. This came after the initial approval. And were some additional items and areas in the high school that Dr. Fuller had requested we take a look at, and we agreed with to make some additional painting adjustments. And then finally bringing to fruition a years-long conversation in regards to track and field signage at Keenan Stadium. This was one of these things with Mr. Felty that he felt that it was a process that we needed to show the records that our student athletes have done over the years at Keenan Stadium. It reflects and is similar to what we have at the pool. In that it celebrates the times and the records in the pool. This celebrates the times and the records in our track and field athletes over the years. And so this was from a CoStars process, and it is utilizing 2020A bond monies as well. So those two items we move forward as part just in the same process, and we're asking for ratification tonight. Any questions on those two items?
Just where's for 5.03, where's it being placed?
So it is being placed in to the right of the scoreboard. Correct. And it will have lighting on it as well. That is a mock-up that we utilized. It will be 7 feet off of the ground, and it's going to be 10 feet high and 24 feet wide. So it's going to be a pretty big sign. Any other questions? Thank you. Again, we appreciate the process to get those items done. Item 5.04 is an excellent opportunity. I've been working with Aaron Dreisbach on this. A sponsorship through Katie Youth in conjunction with the Chester County Intermediate Unit and those groups, those wonderful nonprofit groups. The school district will apply for a grant through the Chester County IU. The contract is up for approval. We will be receiving 14 modernized AEDs, which is our entire complement, an inventory of AEDs and training at no cost to the district. It is approximately about $2,000 per AED with the grant, and we would recommend moving forward with this.
Before
Yes.
you move on, the AEDs, so 14, is that 2 in every building?
So there are 1 in every elementary school. Something tells me there are, I don't know, I will work on getting the exact list of where their placement is.
It's more, I just was curious, district office is covered in this 14 number?
It is.
Yes, it is,
Yes,
okay,
yes.
all right.
And I think there are 3 at the high school.
That's what
Yes.
Dr. Russell was just
Yes.
saying.
Mr.
Based on
Weaver.
the size of the school.
Yes.
These are supplementary, correct?
As in,
As in supplementing the existing
No.
AEDs?
these
or
are
is it
taking out the
totally
older,
replacement?
yes,
Okay.
total
Good.
replacement.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, any questions on that? Again, it's an excellent opportunity, and we thank Senator Muth for pushing that through. Another item, 5.05, is the PCCD grant. Similar to last year's 23-24 PCCD grant, we have an opportunity. This is a non-competitive grant. Last year, we split it between safety and mental health resources. This year, the team gathered, we reviewed some of those aspects, and we'd like to move forward with the safety security camera software backbone and existing cameras to be part of that grant. Right now, it's about $190,000 for the grant, and we like to commit all of that. The total's about $215,000. That number does look familiar. It is what we had requested in the competitive grant that we were rejected for last year. We feel it's very important. The team agrees that we'll move forward with this, and we're recommending approval tonight to move forward with that. Any questions on that? Thank you. Again, just to summarize, we're recommending everything moving forward: 5.02, 5.03, 5.04, and 5.05. The ESCO update has been provided by Mr. Mowry. It is listed in the FCTW agenda item and has been updated for now ESCO 4.0, ESCO 5.0, and ESCO 5.0 Exhibit A. So all 3 projects are represented. I'd like to forward the proposed timeline in association with Act 1. This says estimated at 4.0. Today we received notification that it is going to be 4.0 base. So that is fine. We do feel that that's appropriate for us to move forward with recommending a resolution to not go above the 4.0. That's what this timeline is based upon. As we learned last year, we have to wait a couple of months until we receive the official paperwork in order to move forward with that resolution. And so there is no recommendation tonight, just a reflection of where we're at and what our expectations are when we come forward to the full board and actually move forward with that resolution approval recommended probably in November. Any questions on that? Just another note, what does the Act 1 index drive for us as we start to game plan for our 25-26 budget year? A 4.0% real estate tax increase, the Act 1 index, drives approximately $3,248,333. So if we were to say the 4% increase goes at 1 mil equaling 2.176 million, that would drive in additional revenues, $3,248,000. It's not a recommendation at this point in time, just so that we all understand the parameters that we're working in as we continue to grow and go out with our budget and all of our expenditures and all the detail that we have to go through yet. That's kind of the number that we're actually playing with if we go to that 4.0%. Just a parameter, just a timeline nugget that we can just kind of follow and keep in the back of our heads over the next 8 months of budgetary process. Here is just a little snapshot of where we have been over the years, just so you can get a reference as far as where we're at. No more deliberation. This is part of the budget, and you will see this as we elaborate more. Okay, that's it. Any other questions? Yes, Dr. Campley.
When you were mentioning the PCCD grant, it made me start thinking about when we had discussed, and I can't think of the word right now, but essentially the metal detectors. What's the?
The Evolve.
Yes. Did you look into any grants for that?
At this point in time, we're going to talk about that at the Safety and Operations Committee on the 19th.
Okay.
And yes, we are, and there are other options out there.
Okay, just because this is a grant that's similar to when you talk about safety and mental health, it made me think, because that's another large chunk of change that,
Absolutely.
and again, I think it is something that I think a grant would be needed. So it just made me want to ask for an update, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Campley. It's an excellent point. And we did talk about that as a team, the same team that we had last year for our competitive and non-competitive grants. And so I think we're set up for perhaps some other avenues once we have that conversation on the 19th, maybe.
I'd just like to clarify, we're going to be talking on the 19th about potentially putting metal detectors in our schools?
No, this is the Evolve technology, which was the stadium-driven conversation that we've
Metal
had.
detectors at the stadium?
Yeah.
Got it.
Well, those are AI-driven magnetic
Yeah,
resonance things, yes.
In the, are there 4 spots?
We've been at 4, we've been at 2, we've been all over the place.
So that was part of last month's meeting. There was a presentation on it, but we've asked to move it back to committee. So we'll have a deeper dive and conversation with regards to
Yep.
what exactly will be recommended, as well as the prices associated with the
Correct.
different recommendations.
This just made me think of it again because of it being a grant, and it was the safety and mental health grant.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
All right. I know it'll come up in safety, but there are 2 new devices. One you could just, it's not like an individual walks through. It's almost like a row bar where 3 or 4 people can go through, and it lights up if there's, is that, or are we looking at the individual ones?
We are, all options are open at this point in time. When we held up and we started doing some additional research, there are some other options for us to look at. We thought it was a very closed market, and as it turns out, there are some other options that maybe some other school districts and events placements are having. So we'll look into that. Mr. Rao?
On a separate note, since you now seem to be a renowned performer, are you going to have videos of your dance routine? And are they going to be available for sale?
I know.
Mr. Fountain and I have video, and I would be happy to share them with you.
Absolutely.
It's hot in here.
Unless
That
Jim,
is a song
unless,
too, and
unless
you
Mr.
can dance to it.
Unless
Just
Mr.
saying.
Weaver would like to, avail us of his talents.
Let's
as part
focus
of
in
his-
on the Act 1 index
Act
and what
One
it can
index.
do.
Oh, you wanna talk about
So
that?
4.0, Jim? Just 4.0%?
When Jim wants to talk about tax increases instead of dancing, we
Oh.
know that things are serious.
I see.
Does anybody in the community have any questions or comments with regards to the finance of a whole? Just wanted to afford
Okay.
opportunity.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Weaver, thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Next up, items 5.02, I.03, 5.04, and 5.05 have been recommended to be moved to consent. Are there any questions or comments on these agenda items? Seeing none, I think we can move to consent. Item 5.06, approval of snow removal vendor. Their request to approve Strauss Landscaping to provide snow removal at South Skippack and Schwenksville Elementary Schools. Is there any question or comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move that to consent. Item 5.07, approval of property appraisal. Request to ratify the hiring of Indian Valley Appraisal Company to provide an appraisal for the property located 555 Second Avenue at a cost not to exceed $4,900. Are there any questions or comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, we can move to consent. Item 5.08, approval of 24-25 special education contracts and costs of services. Request to approve special education contracts and costs of services for the 2024-25 school year to meet the requirements of students' IEPs. Are there any questions or comments about this agenda item? Seeing none, we can move to consent. There we go. I was waiting for the computer to catch up with me. Item 5.09, approval of confidential settlement and release agreement This is a request to approve a confidential settlement and release agreement in lieu of FAPE as recommended. Are any questions or comments about this item? Seeing none, we can move to consent. Items 5.10 and 5.11 are both on consent. Item 5.12 is approval of temporary support personnel agreement. There's a request to approve an agreement with People Share Temp Agency to provide temporary support personnel. Are there any questions or comments on this agenda item? Seeing none, we can move to consent. And then,
Dr. Weston.
oh, I'm sorry,
Can we go
please.
back to 5.09 real quick? I apologize.
5.09, there we go.
What is that second document? Is it supposed to be there? There's, in the administrative
not seeing the
content, there's a confidential settlement and then another confidential settlement agreement, but it's not an agreement. It's a graph. Is that just connected to the original document?
I don't have the admin content up on my computer, but the chart appears to show a comparison of different placements.
That's with the confidential settlement. Okay.
Yeah, maybe
Just-
it looks like as if it appears
previous.
right. They were previous confidential settlements,
This
and
is
so
that
it's
one.
sharing with the board a comparison of those placements.
Okay.
The top one being what the, yeah.
Right.
All good? Okay, and so then the last item, 5.13, 5.13, the grants and donations report. There is no grants and donations report for September, and that ends section 5.
Dr. Weston, thank you so much. Section 6, payment of bills. Mr. Liggett, would you mind taking this one?
No problem. 6.01 is for the ratification of the bills and payments and payroll. If there are no questions, I'd ask we move that to consent.
These are actually for September
Oh, it's for
9th.
it's for September 9th.
This is an easy one for you.
How about
All
I-
you got to do is read it.
Let's do this. End my section.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Liggett. Dr. Campley, Section 7, professional personnel.
7.01 is a placeholder. 7.02 is on consent. 7.03 is for the approval of professional appointments. If there are no questions, that one we can move to consent. Okay, seeing none, we'll move it. 7.04, the approval of long-term substitute, extended daily substitute appointments. If there are no questions, that one will also move to consent. Seeing none, moving it to consent. 7.05 and 7.06 are already on consent, and 7.07 is a placeholder for next week, the 9th. That ends my section.
Thank you, Dr. Campley. Section 8, support personnel, Mr. Saylor.
Thank you, Ms. White. 8.01, 8.02, 8.04 are on consent. Without objection, 8.03 and 8.05 will be moved to consent. And that ends my section.
Mr. Saylor, thank you so much. There is nothing in governance. We will discuss that at policy next week, correct? Everything's on
Yes.
perfect for the docket. And that brings us to Section 10, closing items. Section 10.01, comments from the audience. The audience has another opportunity to speak, should they so desire, on any topic. You have 3 minutes, and you just need to state your name and your municipality. Is there anyone that is looking to contribute? Great. Seeing none, 10.02, comments from board members.
Ms. White? I'd just like to recognize Mr. McGill for his service to the district for 35 years and give him an ovation.
Thank you, Mr. McKinney. Anyone else? Wonderful. 10.03, notice of video disclaimer. 10.04 is adjournment. We did not have an executive session today. Thank you, everybody. Have a great